professionals. My name is Jennifer Steerfoss, and I am the CEO of the Steerfoss Consulting Group. We opened our doors in 2011, and we focus our client services on value improvement, revenue cycle management, and strategic planning in this post-health reform world. This presentation will address what you need to know about submitting an informal review for the 2016 Value-Based Modifier Penalties, which is often referred to as the Quality Resource and Use Report that were published this fall for the 2018 Medicare payment year. This presentation, along with many others, are available for free as a video archive on YouTube. SCG Health also offers in-person conferences on many topics, including coding and documentation, compliance, and EMR implementation. Learn more at scghealth.com. One quick legal note. None of the information contained in this presentation should be construed as legal advice. I encourage you to contact counsel if you have any questions regarding state or federal law that apply to the concepts covered in this session. With that, let's get started. And I'm going to introduce our faculty, SCG Health Absolute Quality Reporting Guru, Gina Clegg. And Gina's going to walk us through the value-based modifier informal review here for a second. But let me ask, Gina, do you want me to start off and explain the value-based modifier first, and then you can get into that?
Have at it, Jen.
All right. Yeah, see, we know how to play off each other.
Right.
So let me begin by explaining what is this VBM. So it is a program that has been retired now in 2017. It's been replaced by the merit-based incentive payment system. But this came out under Congress as their first step into the value world, of bringing value to Medicare and paying for quality and value services. And so it was a quality tiering program where professionals across the country were essentially compared against one another on their performance for a number of different areas. The first area was quality, and the first part of quality is that you had to submit the PQRS, or Physician Quality Reporting System data. That was the first part. And then the second part was cost. Now, both of those components are actually part of the merit-based incentive payment system. So in many ways, the value-based modifier is the basis for how we're moving into MIPS. So it is a 2-year penalty delay. So the 2016 reporting year, the way that you performed on that will affect your 2018 Medicare receipts. And it does apply to groups of all sizes. Now, there's been some slight tweaks, and I just want to point that out. The tweak that came out of the final regulation, while the majority of folks are going to fall into the no adjustment, the major change for you to know about is that they no longer have the this 4% bonus and the 4% penalty. They did away with those and instead went to the 2s, the 2 up and 2 down as being essentially the limited space that they were going to play in. Since we are moving to the merit-based incentive payment system, they felt that having the larger penalties really was going to be unfair to a number of groups. The only group that this did not apply to is the non-physician practitioner only groups. So know that those will be the groups that if they are an eligible clinician under MIPS, this would be a new concept for them. So a little bit of that background on how this works. It has been around for some time. It started back on 2014 data for the 2016 payment year. But again, this is going to be retired. So we're looking at the 2016 data for 2018 payment, which could be up to an additional -2. So if this came out, let's start out with Gina. How would you find out what was going on? Were letters mailed? Is there more data available? Where can you start?
As the screen here shows you, you have your portal.CMS.gov. This is where you can go to actually pull not only your 2016 QRUR, but you can pull the previous years as well, just to kind of compare and see where you're at and where you've come from and where you're going. To access this, you are going to need an EIDM account.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about that, and then I'm going to go over and play while I get there. Why don't you talk about what is EIDM and why is it so difficult?
Okay, your EIDM account is your Enterprise Identity Management. This is a website that is put up by CMS that is going to require you to log in. It's going to require you to actually sign up for a PQRS section to actually obtain to get to where you need to get to access your QRUR.
Right.
And then once you get that established, you can go in and gain authorization to your QRUR.
So what's interesting about this website, and I'm just bringing you to the main landing page here so that you can see it. So there's a couple things. When you're setting up your account, if you haven't set up an account already, the first step that you're going to do is you're going to put in your demographic information. It is specific for you as an individual. So if it's a physician or clinician doing this, or if it's either Gina or I, it's actually your social security number. It's the individual who's applying. It is specific to you. So that's the first step, is that you're going to go in and create this account. There is a second part to your account that you need to verify. So you can either get an email, a secure email that goes in when you're logging in. You and I use our phones, actually, so we receive a text message within a couple seconds, which actually has been really reliable. The email hasn't been as reliable, so we preferred that one. But the second part of once you get all this set up, there is a soft credit report, right?
Correct.
And so they're going to be asking crazy things like, you know, where have you gotten your car loan from, or who do you pay your mortgage through? So as one of our clinicians told us, he had to call his wife to find out, right?
That is correct.
Right. So there might be some interesting information in there that you might not be aware of, but you do have to set up that credit report. And then do you remember we have to log in, what, every 90 days?
Every 90 days you have to change your password.
Right. And I actually just got my notice.
Yes.
So this is one of those accounts where everybody should log in before the 90 days, because otherwise you have to get on the phone, and it's painful. Do not let it expire. Because otherwise you're going to have to spend a couple hours waiting on the phone to get this reset up.
And CMS is really good about sending you out the email going, hey, your password expires in 10 days, you need to go change it.
Right, so use an email that you actually access and something that you can get to. So once you create this account and get into portal.CMS.gov, this is a screenshot of where you want to go. And so up here, you'll see that the arrow is pointing down. One of the things that you're going to add is the PVPQRS, which is the provider quality and value portal, I think something like that. So you're looking for the PVPQRS. When we're looking for it, we look up physician quality, and that's typically when we can get there. And then once we're there, to find out more of your data, that QRUR, the Quality Resource Use Report, you're going to go to Feedback Reports, and for 2016, you'll see all of this download here. So let's go through a couple of these things. This PDF, which is up top here, Gina, walk us through, what is that? This PDF right there.
That right there is basically going to give you all your information. It's going to tell you kind of where you're setting, where, you know, the first page is really nice. It gives you kind of a little demographic of, you are here, kind of like one of those maps you see at the mall. And it kind of lets you know where you're sitting in the categories as far as to if you are average for quality and average for cost, or if you're low on quality and high on cost, or kind of exactly where you stand for that one. And then as you go through the extra pages, it kind of tells you what measures you had submitted the previous year that the data shows, and what they're based on, and, you know, some really good information.
Right, so related to PQRS, Table 7, this is the data right there if you want to go through and pull that. There's also these PQRS feedback reports. And so, you know, if you submit it as an individual or a group, there's two different ones. The adjustment feedback report for PQRS is an overview, and then you go into the detail report. So again, very helpful if you're looking not just did you submit, but more importantly, what did you submit? And then once you go into the what did you submit, a couple things, and I've got this pointed out. So Table 1, the reason that this is so important is because guess what? PACOS is often wrong. So Gina, what is PACOS?
PACOS is where you actually, your physicians are supposed to go in and fill out the information about themselves.
Right, so that's your enrollment. It's the provider enrollment and credentialing something or other system for Medicare. So it's where your Medicare information is. And what we found in this year and last year was that PACOS information is often outdated, or the information that the vendors are using, because this isn't actually done by CMS, these are done by subcontractors. And the contractors don't necessarily have the most accurate information coming from PACOS. So when they attribute individual clinicians to your tax identification number, it may not be correct. But the other thing is, you know, where are they pulling their specialty information from?
From PACOS, and often their taxonomy is wrong.
Well, it's actually not even PACOS, it's NPES or NIPSI. So it's the NPI enumeration system. They're not using PAYCO's data, and that's been one of the problems that we've had. So double checking that your PAYCO's information is correct, and if there's a conflict, going and looking at NPES. So I'm going to quick go there. While I'm navigating over to NPES, can you talk about why is Table 2 the most important table out of all these downloads that you can get? And this is Table 2 right here.
Table 2 is beneficiary and hospital admissions, and that is important for when you are getting into one part of what makes it important is with the current MIPS program for groups over that are 16 and more clinicians. That will actually be where they collect your 7th measure from. So when you get into those larger groups, they are going to use the data for 7. So your 7th will actually be from that QRUR report and how many patients, you know, were rehospitalized and, you know, kind of.
Well, it's all the detailed data that we're really going to need to get to under MIPS. So it's actually a very important file, and we're going to come back to that real quick. But so this is the NPES or NIPSI. If you go to npiregistry.cms.hhs.gov, that's where this is located. And just because we're going to have some fun, we're going to pick on my dad. So he's down here, and so what's interesting in this information that we're going to go look at is that we're going to look at what his taxonomy here is. And this taxonomy here has him listed as a physician assistant, which is correct, and he's licensed in the state of Michigan. Fantastic. So that's really good. What we have found is that, for example, some of the CRNA clients that we have, while they were going through school, they were listed in here as a registered nurse. Registered nurses are not an eligible professional or even eligible clinician under MIPS. So guess what? They were being pulled out of the data, and they submitted data, and they needed that to be able to be considered full quality so that they didn't have the reporting issues. So we highly recommend that you go and check out. And again, if you want to learn and pick on my dad, feel free to do that. But the provider information, you're going to go to NPES NPI registry. This is where you're going to go, npiregistry.cms.hhs.gov. So that's where this is. Now, I just want to briefly go back to this file here because I do think it's really interesting to talk a little bit more about Table 2. So Table 2 lists all of the beneficiaries or hospitalizations, as Gina mentioned, also includes a number of chronic diseases that they're following. So COPD, asthma, heart failure, diabetes, so some things that you actually may not know about your patients. But Gina, how do patients get attributed? She's thinking.
Basically, they don't go see their PCP.
Right. So they don't see. So specialists, for example, if you have patients that are attributed, it's because those patients did not have one E&M service with a primary care professional. Primary care professionals are defined as internal medicine, gerontology, family practice, that's it. So if you're a cardiologist, orthopedic surgeon, podiatrist, OB-GYN, guess what? Your patients actually may be attributed to you because your patients have not seen a primary care professional. They look at the group, the clinician that has the highest amount of E&M by the amount paid, not by the volume of services, and that's how the attribution is working right now. Now, that's something we're looking at under MIPS. That is something that may change, but right now it's really important for you to pull that file, work it, look at it, pull as much information as you can, because as we go into MIPS and start looking at costs, this is a really big deal. And then if you're a geek like me and want to look at your costs, the per capita costs go from table 3, 4, 5. So please check those out as well. But let's say that you disagree with the information. We'll start off with you did submit your PQRS data. So you already filed your PQRS informal review. Now you need to submit the value-based modifier informal review so that you don't have that cut. Because remember, these are two separate programs. So Gina, walk us through, where do we go for the QRUR value-based modifier program?
We're going to go back to our portal.CMS.gov. We're going to log back into that EIDM account if it has kicked us out. We are going to go back into our PVPQRS tab, and we are going to go to Value Modifier and Formal Review.
Excellent. And just as a quick note, you also can get there off the QualityNet website too. I will show you a link here as well. And there are two, and we have some small URLs down here, which we'll be sure to post. But those URLs are available to you as well to get into the quick reference guide if you're looking for some actual screenshots of how to get there. So Gina, what are some points that we've found when we're doing informal reviews? What do you need to include in this story that you need to tell CMS? A factual story, not the thing of fiction, but a factual story you are telling to CMS. What needs to be included?
You need to include adequate documentation.
And so how do you get documentation into these appeals?
We have been hooking them up to links on the website.
Right, so we would upload a document on a website, could be a Google form, whatever it is, and actually ensuring that CMS has access to it. One of the joys from our website is we can see whether or not they actually looked at it. But using those links is a great way to do attachments. What we found, the informal review from recollection, it actually does allow some limited attachments on certain items, especially if it's already a file, for example, Table 1. So a couple things that I know from last year we did informal reviews on. The first one was because there were clinicians that were attributed to the group that hadn't been with the group in over a decade. So, I mean, groups that just should never have been included in Table 1. So that was one of the first things that we started looking at. Number two were patients that were completely never, ever, ever seen by the group. And we're not quite sure how that happened, but it was very interesting to go in. So again, that's data that's coming off of those tables that we're applying here. And the third one would be if you submitted PQRS data and you don't want the second part of this cut to happen to you, it is a second appeal that you're doing through the VBM informal review. The first step is the PQRS informal review. The second step is the VBM informal review. And there you're going to say, we did submit the data, here's what we submitted the data. It's almost like a Me Too appeal that you're going to do. So a couple quick notes. When is this due, Gina?
December 1st by 8 p.m. Eastern Time.
Yes, Eastern Time. So make sure that you get everything in. And the sooner that you get it in, more likely it's going to be the sooner that you can get feedback and whether or not your appeal is upheld. One quick note, everything when you submit it on like November 30th and December 1st is going to be delayed big time. But Gina, how long do they have to get back to you?
They have 90 days to respond to your review.
Right, so it may be something that you're not going to find out your results until the beginning of next year, so do be patient with that. And I do recall last year we actually ended up with some folks that didn't find out until much later. So there was a big question on what they were going to do with claims if they had to pay money back. So really interesting to see how this all works out and works out for you. So we suggest that you get these in earlier than later. Any questions or any last thoughts that you wanted to bring up, Gina?
Just the whole documentation. You only get one shot at submitting these informal reviews. Make sure your documentation is there to back you up.
Excellent. So just real quick, I am going to show you, we're going to show you over to the QualityNet website. So if you're over at QualityNet and you link over to the physician portal, as we've showed in the other video, there's the PQRS lookup, and if you're doing the PQRS informal review, that link is there. If you click on the value-based informal review, this is going to link you over to the portal.CMS.gov. So just know that that's actually where you're going to end up going because it has it here that that's where you need to go. So just know it's not even a link that gets you there. It just prints out that that's where you need to go. So if you have any questions, feel free to contact us at scghealth.com or feel free to call us on our toll-free line. We are here to answer your questions. This presentation, along with many others, are posted on our YouTube channel, which we invite you to go check out. And if you are watching this video archive, please remember to rate this video. To receive notices about upcoming Gimme 15-minute programs and other educational sessions, please sign up for the SCG Health blog at scghealth.com. Thank you for joining me and Gina Clegg for this 15-minute education program. This concludes the presentation.